G.
Could, I guess.
I don't know if it's but the person sitting next to you is back, right? Everybody's here? All right, here we go. Oh, Navy got here. Where's our Navy guy? Okay. Now you'll understand. Somebody earlier asked me the type of aircraft that somebody was supporting. And we had C-130s, we had the A-10s. That was the assigned aircraft. Obviously, the length of the runway determines what can land there. A C-141 can land there. There wasn't the need. We had a bomb dump, and we had supplies that were coming in from Kaiserslautern and other locations because there was no ramp space at Ramstein. So we were kind of like overflow for Ramstein. Anyhow, just a reminder, it is now 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll try to explain this the best way I can. I'm sitting there, and it's a briefing room. Okay, you got the big long table, and you got the chief maintenance desk at the end of the table. Somebody lied. I said, if you weren't here, raise your hand. You didn't raise your hand. Anyhow, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Navy has just arrived. The chief maintenance table, desk is right here. He's got this briefing table out in front of him. Nice long table, chairs, so that he can see everybody down the table. Two Navy commanders walk in, introduce themselves, and they start explaining, okay, we've got Navy personnel coming, aircraft arriving, 9 o'clock. We're going to need buses, we're going to need food, we're going to need a place to sleep, place to park the aircraft, you know, just get all our people bed down. And they use that word, bed down. And the conversation's going around the table. And the C-130 guy said, well, I've got ramp space in front of me, you can go ahead and park down here, no problem. This is office space. No, I don't have that for you because we're classified. I don't have any space for you, but I'm sure we can find someplace else for you to, work at. And they're talking around the table, conversations, lots of different. The supply guys talking about how many people, how many beds. They're talking about triple bunking in the barracks, whatever rooms that were available. They would go ahead and reset up from two-man room to a three-man room, if necessary, four-man room. Chow hall, because the airplane was arriving. They were going to need to feed these guys, and all those arrangements are being discussed and everything else. Linen supplies, getting stuff out of base supply, moving into the dormitories, and having the personnel to be able to do that. Remember, this is still Christmas time, okay? Believe it or not, there were a few people that weren't there, my commander included. He was at another base location for somebody's retirement. Anyway, neither here nor there. So the conversation's going along, and the impression that's being laid across the table is that they're there for one night. They just need a place to come in, go to sleep, get fed, and pull out. I asked the question, I says, you guys here aren't here RON, meaning remain overnight. I said, you're here for bed down, aren't you? He said, yeah, that's why I said bed down. You're here for the duration. That's right. You're right on point. C-130 jumps up and says, well, you can't park on my ramp. I need that ramp for my aircraft going in and out. And everybody starts chattering. You can imagine what was relayed across the table was a comfortable one-day operation, one overnight, and then they were gone. No, they were here for the duration. So I said, when I even talked to my commander, remember, I had shipped out all my stuff, okay? I still had office space, I still had desks and trash cans, and I still had a maintenance control room with computer and some radios still. We didn't ship all of our radios, just what they requested. And we still had a maintenance facility. I still had a place for them to meet and, you know, crew brief. We even had a skiff. You've heard it talked about on TV. A skiff is where you can go inside a room and talk classified information. So that was all available to them. So I said, I can bed you down. I've got ramp space now at the other end. Open pads that you can swing your aircraft on. You may have to tow them a little bit, but we can get you parked. As it turned out, they could make the turn on the round pad that we had, multiple. So the conversation continued and things started to fall into place. Time is marching on. Troy Destain, can't do that. I have a solution. Okay, I take them for a tour. I take them down to our deck facilities, show them around, explain to them, okay, as we drive down here, I said, your aircraft can park over here, here, this hangar facility, you can put your maintenance equipment in there. We go over to, I had a hardened aircraft facility, bomb-proof, chemical-proof, the whole thing. And I also had a wooden section to that before that was built. And I showed them the maintenance control, the operations for the pilots to do their pilot planning and briefings and such, and the skiff for their classified information. And we had safes still. So they fell in love with it. They loved it. My commander arrives and I tell him all that I promised. He agreed. By the way, the commander and I were like that. We understood each other. I knew my boundaries and he knew his boundaries. If he told me to do something, he knew not to ask me how I was going to do it. I got it done. So it's now 8 o'clock, if you're keeping track, and I am, because tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It's now 9 o'clock. The aircraft have arrived. That's the what we call a Nightingale in the Air Force. It's a DC-9. It has a larger, on their aircraft, they have a larger bay door, opening door, so you can load cargo on it also. This one that you're looking at is a passenger rig. The ones that they had a larger door, so you could put cargo on, roll it down. So the aircraft arrive at 9 o'clock. We've got the buses in place. We've got personnel from the barracks and headquarters supply, all meeting and greeting their counterparts. The introductions is being made, and the bed down begins. Navy commanders go to my commander. We're all standing there watching guys unload from the airplanes, and we've got the necessary people talking to the necessary people. And they asked my commander, can we have him? Me. He says, yeah, get him off my hands. Take him. We have another mission. So I grab my go bag, and that's a bag that you keep packed so that when you get something like this, you just grab your bag. It's got 3 days of stuff, enough that you can wash out in the sink each night and have something dry to put on the next day. And that's my go bag, and I was gone. It's now 9:30, we're We're on our way to Bitburg Air Base, Germany. It's northwest of SMSgt. They have F-15 aircraft base there. It's roughly a 2-hour drive on Autobahn. And I told them it would be easier for me to drive because I know my way and I know the German roads. So I was driving and we're discussing on our way. I said, you know, I know all these people over there. I inspected them for 3.5 years. I probably inspected them. In fact, I had been there not long before I went to SMSgt. And so we're discussing, theoretically, I said, the F-15s are gone. So that means, just like my facility, that the air base facilities are still there. They're empty. And I wasn't wrong. The F-15s had been dispatched, I knew that. They were down in the sandbox. By the time we stopped, I introduced them to a Schnellenbiss. That's a little hot dog stand on the side of the road. Delicious. If you're ever in Germany, stop at Schnellenbiss and get a Wurst. Anyhow, we get to the chief maintenance briefing room, same setup, 1,300 hours, and they go in, Navy guys go in and do their initial brief. And I said, we're going to turn this over to the Sergeant Scherwitz here because he knows exactly what we need and what your capabilities are. He described them to us on the way here. And I knew probably 3/4 of the people sitting around the table, just from my work at headquarters. Their aircraft arrived at 1,500. We did a complete bed down. In one day, 2 different bases. Why me? I'm gonna make it happen, guy. I've been told. Give me something to do, and it happens. Their squadron started operations January 1. I became the Air Force liaison for the Navy at SMSgt Air Base. I was their go-between guy. I spoke Air Force with everybody else on the base that spoke Air Force and translated it into Navy the best I could with them. And they learned our lingo because it was easier to learn our lingo than it was to learn theirs. Finding a base, now I said I spoke ahead a little bit. Finding a base in which to operate was difficult. This is the Navy. It had to be within range of Desert Shield Theater, able to accommodate large aircraft. Overseas ramp space became a precious commodity as hundreds of transport and cargo aircraft began a non-stop shuttle operation to the theater, meaning the sandbox. VR-58 home base at NAS Jacksonville set up operation down in Naples, Florida.
Naples, Italy.
Naples, Italy, I'm sorry. Thank you. And that's why I asked for corrections. And the Bitburg operation was in full swing. 1C1, here's what this was all about. And I don't know the type of unit, but I'm not an Army guy. 1C-141 Starlifter could carry approximately 200 troops, depending on its configuration. A C-9B, Skytrain 2, which is what the Navy had, could move troops and cargo, 90 packs or 8 pallets of military equipment. So 290 packs. Lou, how many people in a 290 type unit?
One infantry company.
One infantry company. That's what they did. They brought the Navy over so that they could move an entire unit one time together, and not, you guys take this airplane and tomorrow we'll send another airplane. That was the whole reason they sent the Navy over, was to get the troops into the sandbox as a unit. So it's an infantry unit. Okay. Squadrons began operations January 1. With little guidance, VR squadron personnel began asking for their Air Force counterparts if they needed anything special before going into Saudi Arabia. They quickly discovered that they lacked chemical and biological warfare training and equipment required for conducting the operation. Now, let's talk about what this unit did during the Cold War and peacetime and war operation. The Navy units would move people, personnel, from one Navy base to another, where they would meet a ship or something, or transfer, or medical evac for people. It was a transportation facility, you know, that was what their job was, transportation. So they weren't, their mission wasn't to go into a war theater and do combat operations, combat delivery, combat, you know, flying into a combat zone. They were never trained in that aspect. They were Pan Am, TWA, Delta Airlines. They moved people. Well, since Navy had no previous experience, we got together, grabbed a whole bunch of my guys. We went up to base supply with the Navy guys, got them all equipped with MOP gear. This is chemical gear. MOP levels are different levels. What are the exposure levels? MOP 0, MOP 1, MOP 2, MOP 3, MOP 4. The more chemicals stuff, the more gear you put on. Okay, so we trained them in one day on New Year's Eve. What better day to do it? Well, base supply got them all the equipment, did the best job we could to introduce them to chemical warfare gear. The rest was up to them. Navy C-9s mobilized for Gulf War hold troops during their Desert Shield, and they shifted to cargo during Desert Storm. The VR-59 loadmaster transported bombs slated for B-52s attacking Iraq, positioned from smash bases. They were down at Zaragoza, with a Z, pronounced with a Th, Zaragoza. They were flying B-52s out of there. Again, demands for logistical support. So wherever they were needed, they were tasked, given a tasking order that, hey, we need this type of equipment, bombs mostly. We were emptying our bomb dump. If you don't know anything about Europe, remember I talked early on about war readiness materials. We had stockpiles of bombs all over Germany, okay, in bomb-protected igloos, okay, underground igloos. And what was happening was they were transporting them, let's just use SMSgt as an example, from areas near SMSgt to SMSgt to be flown out rather than trucking them all the way down to Spain. Because of the amount of munitions that were being dropped, if you remember, they were bombing the hell out of them. We could turn around and fly bombs down there. Like I said, they'd get 8 pallets on their aircraft. It wasn't just them. We had C-130s coming in. And I'm not going to say that we didn't have a 141 come in. My recollection is C-130s because I got involved in it. A side note here. The base commander was a full bird colonel. Her husband was my commander, a lieutenant colonel. So there was a striking bit of cooperation between the base commander and this DED, who had 11 people by now, to do anything that was needed anywhere on the flight line. They kept us on the flight line. I'll get to that some more here. But again, utilizing all the capabilities, all the talents. Everything was at a push pace. As time marches on, along with supporting the Navy, our Cold War mission was over. We were available. Here I go. I was ahead of myself. My commander is married to the base commander. All hands on deck at any time. We helped transit aircraft. We parked, like I said, those 130s. I helped park 130s. We helped transportation. Here's an interesting situation, and it's probably covered in here, but I'm going off script. We had a snowstorm. Civil engineers could muster up, because they had pulled, remember, the war was in the sandbox. Cold War was over. If you had personnel that were needed down there, they pulled them from your units, left you short of personnel. It's snowing like blazes. They've got one snowplow driver. Talking with, that's the civil engineers drove the snowplows. We coordinated with them. They opened up the runway, not the taxiways. C-130 had a priority mission of picking up some bombs. Where they were going, don't know. No need to know. But they got the runway cleared. Me and my other guys, I think there was about 7 or 8 of us, not all 11 of us. There was about 7 or 8 of us. Went down, the C-130 landed, turned at the end of the runway. The weapons, munitions guys brought in a trailer load of bombs on trailers, already on pallets. And I drove the forklift, 15,000-pound all-terrain forklift, and loaded that C-130. He was off the ground in less than a half an hour with, I don't know, I guess about 6 pallets of bombs. Just one day. Asked to do what you need to do. War does that. I'm sure that the guys down in the sandbox had all their own stories. That's what this program is all about. What did you do during the war, Dad? On January 17th, Operation Desert Storm, an air and naval bombardment that lasted 5 weeks. Hence, that was when all those bombs were being dropped. Okay? And all the resupply going back down to the sandbox was so important. On February 24th, the U.S. began the ground assault on Iraq. The coalition declared a ceasefire 100 hours after the ground campaign began. An amazing war when you put it all together. The planners of this war were all Vietnam vets, and they did it right. Other operations. Operation Desert Farewell. The war is over. The U.S. redeployed forces and equipment back to the U.S. in 1991. The aftermath. The FOL now ordered to close down and process all remaining assets into base supply. So all the remaining computer, the desks, trash cans, anything that wasn't a wall part of the building was documented, tagged, and turned into base supply. Of the last 11 staff members, 9 were transferred to other units, and 2 of us were scheduled to retire. June of 1991, I turned out the lights and locked the door and started the process out to retire. What a way to end my career. So, any questions? We have wonderful speakers coming up. For the next 6 weeks, Captain Hasbro is going to be here. Steve Hasbro, Don Hasbro's son, he's going to talk about his experience in Desert Storm. We've got Iraqi freedom and Afghanistan to talk about all the different sandbox wars. Did you enjoy tonight's presentation? Thank you for staying awake.
Could you comment on why Kuwait? What's so important about Kuwait?
Oil.
Oil. Oil. It's all about the money.
That's
why when-
Shoshana.
That's why when the Iraqis were departing, they busted off all the heads of the wells and set them on fire.
And oil spilled everywhere, there was black smoke everywhere, it was great.
Yep. Yeah, it was all about oil. And a nation overtaking another nation. In the Saudi environment, let's go back to Egypt for a minute. The whole reason the Camp David Accord got signed was Israel and Egypt and all the Middle East was afraid that Gaddafi was going to invade Egypt. They had no way of protecting themselves. Sadat asked for the same aircraft that the Israelis used, the F-4 Phantom, to annihilate their Air Force, MiG-21s, MiG-27s, 29s. They annihilated them in a very tactful way, but they annihilated their Air Force and their capability to protect themselves. That is how the Camp David Accord got signed.
Another reason why he invaded Kuwait was the ports,
The ports.
because he wanted ports to be ready for lives.
In fact, here, let me, so here's Kuwait. You got Iraq up here. That's all they have access to here. They've got the Mashala River. I think that's the Mashala River, Tigris River. But that's the amount of portage they have. And this would add that much more portage for them. And the wealth of the oil fields in Kuwait. Oh, wait a minute. I was on the wrong, this is the map you want. Here's Iraq. There's their border right here. That's how much sea frontage they've got. By taking Kuwait, this would add that much to their access to the Persian Gulf. Yes?
Lee mentioned when East and West Germany, and you were involved in that and equipment and so on, and you said that East Germany was supplied with Russian equipment.
Correct.
Can you give us a sense of comparing the quality of the Russian equipment with your
Love to.
U.S. equipment?
Now, I first-hand experience. There's a couple things I can't talk about, okay? As far as I know, it's still classified. Give you an example. I told you about the missile. I have at home a bolt from a MiG-21 landing gear. It's stainless steel. It is solid. I've had MagnaFlux, which is a magnetic inspection to see if there's any cracks. I've had NDI, X-ray, all the inspections I could do on it. There's nothing wrong with it. The shaft of the bolt, you can still see the lathe marks, okay? The head of the bolt has casting craters in it. You can still get a wrench on it, it still turns, still tightened up. When you screw a nut on it, you can take the nut and wobble it. But they use star washers. So they'll take a star washer, which is nothing more than a washer with tangs. You bend one this way, bend one this way, bend one this way, bend one this way. And that's not going to let that nut come off. The MiG-21 skin has gaps in it, like that. Button head rivets, they're easier to install. The MiG-21 was designed to take off with a ground radar telling him, vectoring him to what he was attacking. That's what the MiG-21 was designed to do. Radar would pick up the enemy aircraft, they'd launch a MiG-21, intercept that aircraft, make a pass, maybe two on that aircraft, and go home. The ground radar sent him for an intercept path. The mission was to get up, shoot, and come home. If you got a whole bunch of them, how many bolts? Now, American bolt, that nut, snug. You could see your face in the polished surface, the head of the nut. Perfect, polished. It's pretty. MiG 21 bolt, functional. They can produce a $100 one, as an example. I'm pulling that out of my butt.
Yeah, difference in cost and
Cost, sure.
money.
Attention to detail. We make all of our stuff pretty. They're about functionality. Radar, ground radar unit, okay? I've got to be careful here. The ground radar units that they had in East Germany were the same ones that Iraq had, okay? Russian export, remember I told you about the missile? The same. The ground radar uses a pulsing signal of radar, a sound wave, to go up, bounce off the aircraft, come back, and it tells them what the distance and elevation is and everything else, okay? Those same frequencies were the same ones the Iraqis had. Okay? Same equipment. If it works, it ain't broke. Okay? So, us having what the exact precise signal sequences are, frequency changes, it's more than just one radio frequency. It's electronic countermeasures. You try and jam that signal. Okay? So, if we know exactly what the signal is, then we can build a counteraction to it. So, when their radar's looking at our airplane, here's the radar. There's our physical airplane. The radar comes up. We have an ECM pod, electronic countermeasures pod. It sends a signal back down to the radar saying, we captured your signal. We're over here. So they shoot the missile over there. Okay? That's how electronic countermeasures work. So, by having the advantage of having known equipment used in both locations, we had the upper hand. There are tons and tons of stories about, I'm ahead of time, tons and tons of stories about all the things that took place during the Sandbox Wars. We used a lot of modern technology that they weren't even aware of. We even used technology that we were testing. So, if you're into that stuff, read up on it. It's on the internet. I can only talk about what I know. And I've been fortunate enough to have a broad experience.
Well, in your opinion, I guess I would say, do you think that today's military aircraft is as well made or put together with as much attention to detail?
Yes. The modern technology, aircraft today, the F-35, fortunate enough, my wife and I actually went to a briefing. We were at a reunion at Eglin. We got a really good briefing. So the modern technology of today is command control communication. If you go back to the Cold War, that was highly the whole point of command control communication, knowing what the other guy's doing. We learned a lot of lessons from World War II, using the code talkers, trying to communicate so that we could take instant action. So today's modern aircraft, the F-35, I think I've got that right, 35? Yeah. Anyhow, this aircraft and a it's got a big dish on top, okay?
Low master.
Huh?
Low master.
Well, no. Newer. AWACS.
AWACS.
The AWACS is an airborne command and control. And in its simplest forms, folks. simplest forms. I'm breaking it down to just simple, it's a lot more complicated. So, airborne command and control, okay? F-35 takes off, F-16 takes off, F-15 takes off. And they're all doing their little orbits, waiting for the next target to be assigned to them by the AWACS bird up there. There's guys on the ground in this fictitious land called Afghanistan. And they're under siege. And they need help, okay? And they're given the coordinates. Now, modern day war, they've got their little radio transmitters and everything, their GPS. They're able to tell ABCCC, Airborne Command and Control, exactly where they are, and exactly GPS-wise where the enemy is, and what they need to protect them, or to eliminate the problem. The AWACS bird will say, okay, F-16, let's put A-10 in there. A-10, he's talking to him with, well, let's go back to the 35. Go back to the other airplanes, just the F-35. It has the capability to talk to electronically with AWACS and the guy on the ground without using a middleman. They are intercommunicating electronically, not voice, electronically, okay? So when he's coming in on his target, he already has all the coordinates and everything else, and weather conditions, everything is being fed into that aircraft. Electronically, it's the most, and there's a couple of new airplanes, I'm just using the F-35 as an example. They have all this electronic capability now that they can put a bomb in a window and it's not even an issue. It's the inner command and control communication capability that the new generation of aircraft are providing us. Multiple targets. They can track, from the F-35, they can track multiple targets, shoot all at the same time, multiple missiles, and each go to their own target. Because now the electronics going into the missile is telling that missile which target it's going to. And they can shoot them all at once. Just to give you an idea of the modern day technology. The days of the F-4 Phantom, Vietnam War, I had 13 years on that aircraft, I love it. We dropped hard bombs, like today. They're still using the same bombs that we used during World War II. The only difference is we're putting new fuses on them, we're putting tail fins on them with a little radio intercept. The nose is, well, usually it's in the tail. There's a little guidance system that operates little fins that help the bomb fly instead of just dropping. It'll glide to its location with correction with a GPS locator. So the same bomb, just newer technology. We're paying a lot more for that aircraft, a lot more. Let's go back to the MiG-21. They produce a lot of MiG-21s for what we spent on one F-4. I don't know comparisons, I just know that they were producing a lot compared to what the amount of money we were putting into one airplane. Any other questions? I think my biggest benefit was working headquarters USAFE. With each job, I got to see a little bit more of the picture. When I worked at headquarters USAFE, I got to see the bigger picture. All the different missions. El Dorado Canyon, the bombing of Gaddafi in his tent. I was actually a part of that without my even knowing it because I didn't have a need to know. But I went before that event took place and made sure that the unit that was flying that mission was ready to do it. We were sent in, and in fact, when that actual mission took place, I was at Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama.
Montgomery.
Alabama.
Montgomery.
But that was called El Dorado Canyon. And they even gave me a certificate afterwards, after I came back to Germany and I went back to the base again, where the unit was. They even gave me a certificate for all the work I had done with them, so that their mission success was good.
Another question, Lee. When you were in Germany in the 80s and 90s, how many U.S. facilities were in the country of Germany?
Sure. Air Force. Okay.
Okay, just Air Force.
So, I'll start out a bit, well, I'm going to include Schusterberg up in the Netherlands, Bitburg, Spangdahlem, Zweibrücken, Ramstein, Hahn, Sembach, Rhein-Main.
Wiesbaden.
Yeah,
Wiesbaden.
and Wiesbaden. That was a mix of Army, Air Force. Those were the Air Force bases. And then Berlin also.
And today,
Oh, you've got Ramstein and Spangdahlem in Germany.
Wiesbaden. Wiesbaden's.
Oh, Wiesbaden, yeah, but that's Army again.
Is it back to Army?
That's Army again. Sembach is back to Army. In fact, it's one of their headquarters now. It's got a great underground facility. It used to be home of the 601st Attack Control Wing. A little attaboy on my side. Remember I told you I went there from Egypt, and I was working the flight line, OV-10s, and they failed their inspection, and I did good. I wound up in QA, but en route to that, I won so many awards, it's ridiculous. I won maintenance superintendent of the year, of quarter and year for the 601st Attack Control Wing, which is the largest wing in the Air Force. I won it for the year. I was then moved up to 17th Air Force, won 17th Air Force, maintenance superintendent of the year. And then headquarters USAFE, I was one of 12 in the United States Air Force, winner of maintenance superintendent of the year. One of 12 in the Air Force. So I've had a great career. Why me? People gave me jobs, gave me challenges that I would never have dreamed of. Going to Egypt, come to find out from the State Department, the reason they wanted me was when these Iranians debriefed the State Department. They said I was the best instructor they had the 4 years they were in the States. That's why they called me. And by the way, I wasn't alone. There were 90 of us in Egypt. All different skills, weapons people, radar people, hydraulic people. There were 2 flight line sections. I had one section, another guy had another. But what an experience, you know. I was a C student in high school. All I wanted to be was an auto mechanic, you know, and Vietnam came.